Dear students, as I told you that I would start kind of tutorial lectures about convex sets and convex functions, and there we will do interesting problems, we will do some interesting results which will not be discussed in the usual courses, might not be even found in the usual texts. So let me just put on the AC, it's too hot. So there might be a little sound at the back. I hope that won't disturb you. So today we are going to discuss about the basic definitions of a convex function and a convex sets, and give a basic example of basic examples of convex sets. Now a convex set is a very simple object. You see it all around you. You could see a book, for example. Most books are convex sets. Take a cube, take a square on the plane, rectangular parallelepiped, a cylinder, ice cream cone. So what is a convex set? It essentially tells you that if you take any 2 points in that set and join it by a line segment, like the one you see here on the left, that is such sets are called convex sets. While if there is at least one pair of points where this fact breaks, then such is called a non-convex set that you see on the right. Now, a convex set, to have its definition, needs the notion of a line segment. And for needing the notion of a line segment, we can just speak in the language of vector spaces. I do not need to go into specific Rn or some normed space, etc. So because it depends only on two operations, that is important for vector spaces. It depends on two operations, which is the operation of scalar multiplication and vector addition. So a line segment joining 2 points in the vector space V is a collection of all points Z, where every Z is represented in as lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x. Well, lambda is varying between 0 and 1. So when lambda is 0, I get z equal to x, and when lambda is 1, I get z equal to y. So as I move lambda from 0 to 1, I am moving from x to y. So a convex set C is such that for any xy in C, the line segment joining them is a subset of C. There is a special class of convex sets which becomes important, and it will become important in our discussion. It's called the affine set. An affine set is such a set where not only the line segment joining the 2 points lie inside the set, but it has to be such that the whole line joining the 2 points, the line passing through the 2 points, has to be a subset of that set, has to remain inside that set. So what is line joining 2 points? What is line, what do you mean by line joining 2 points, right? So a line joining 2 points is the collection of all elements Z such that every Z is written as lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x, where lambda is element of R. So an affine set is a set where for every xy in A, the line joining those 2 points, that is the line passing through those 2 points, is in A. Actually, what happens when lambda is strictly greater than 0, you come to the left of x. When lambda is strictly greater than 1, you go to the right of y. So the whole line remains there. So in tandem with the definition of convex sets and affine sets, you have definition of convex functions and affine functions. So now a convex function is defined over a convex set. Convex, which is take any convex subset of a vector space, and then for any x, y, and c in any lambda element of 0 and 1, if the function follows this following property, it is convex. That is, f of lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x, the convex combination of x and y, is less than the convex combination of fy and fx with the same lambda. That is, f of lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x is less than equal to fy plus 1 minus lambda fx. And an affine function has the same definition. I have defined here in terms of an affine subset. You could write in terms of a you can define it over any convex subset also. But it must have the property that there is equality. It doesn't matter if I put C convex set here, still I can define it. In fact, so please understand that this definition of the affine function is similar to a convex function but with equality. But if I want to define a function A as affine, right, over an affine set, instead of lambda element of 0, 1, I can actually push lambda to whole over. Because now I have the affine set, because now this definition lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x is also meaningful, because that also would remain in the set A. But if I now, instead of A being an affine set, if I take A to be a convex set, then I need to set lambda element of 0, 1. So in general, the definition of affine space is that affine function is that you have this definition, convex function's definition, with an equality instead of equality, and lambda restricted to 0, 1. So I want to again repeat that this could be anything. It could be Rn, or it could be whatever. It could be some convex set. Still I can define an affine function, but restricting lambda to 0, 1. For example, Hx is A of x, inner product, is a linear function. It's a standard result in linear algebra that in finite dimensions, every linear function can be expressed as an inner product. While an affine function is one which is a translate of a linear function. We add some real number to it. In case this linear function could be considered even in higher dimension also. You can define, here I have defined in a very general setup. Examples of convex sets, right, and affine sets. For example, if you look at the first example, Rn plus, it is the non-negative orthant, that is xi is greater than equal to 0. I is from 1 to n. So, which means x is an element in Rn, it has n components, all these components are greater than equal to 0. It is called the non-negative orthant of Rn. This is a convex set and you can prove it without much difficulty. Okay. While this very important class of set called hyperplane, which is given an A and B, I should write H of A and B here because it depends on the choice you make of A and B. Given a vector A in Rn and a B real number R in real number B in R, then I ask you to find all those vectors x whose inner product with A exactly equals B. So if I am in 2 dimensions, that is n is 2, so the vector A can be given as A1, A2. Then I am seeking all the vectors x whose components are x1, x2, such that the inner product Ax, which is given as A1 into x1 plus A2 into x2, should be equal to B. Which means, as I have written here, in R2, a hyperplane represents a straight line. And you can understand in R2, any straight line will divide the whole space R2 in 2 parts, H plus and H minus. The upper half space is called H plus, which consists of all x such that A of x is greater than equal to B. So it consists of the H and everything above it. And it consists of also H minus, the lower part, is called the lower half space, all x such that Ax is less than equal to B. But remember that these H plus and H minus are 2 convex sets and they are not affine sets. So an affine set generates two convex sets, but those two are not affine sets. But these sets become very important in optimization and even in the study of convex analysis. If somebody has seen my course lectures on mathematical economics, I have given quite a bit of detail of use of these things. But here also we will discuss something different. So let us see why we had defined convex functions so early. The idea is that there are a lot of convex functions which generate convex sets. Now a typical feasible set in a convex optimization problem is a collection of elements in Rn such that a system of convex inequalities gix less than equal to 0, where all these gi's are convex functions from Rn to R, are to be satisfied. So you collect all x in Rn such that gix is less than equal to 0 for every I between 1 to m. Then it is very simple to show that C is a convex set. Because if you take any two xy in C, then gix is less than equal to 0 for all I, and giy is less than equal to 0 for all I. Applying the convexity of x, the result is straightforward. And it will immediately show here, if I write gi lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x, then by using the convexity of G, now by using the convexity of G, here I am using the convexity of G, right? I immediately can see that gi lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x equal to 0, which shows that lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x is in C, so C is convex. Now let us take a normed space. Right? A normed space is nothing but a vector space plus an additional structure called the norm. So norm is a way to measure the distance of a point, a vector in a space, from the origin, the zero vector. So norm in its most general definition, without any giving a specific form of that norm, is a function from x to R such that it's a non-negative function and it takes only the value 0 only at the point 0, and whenever you scale up a vector by a scalar lambda, real number lambda, the distance of that vector from 0 is the absolute value of lambda times the distance of x from 0. That norm of lambda x is modulus of lambda into norm of x. So this is actually generalization of the absolute value or the mod of a real number to higher dimensions. And then you have this standard and famous triangle inequality that norm of x plus y is less than equal to norm x plus norm y. You can see it from the picture on the left, but you can immediately understand that this is slightly general than the standard Euclidean thing, where we know that sum of two sides of a triangle is always greater than the third. But that is strictly, that strict inequality is not here applied here, because here the triangle could be degenerate. X and y could be in the same line. They could be scalar multiples of each other, and in that sense it will be, their equality would hold. Now, using this definition of a norm, we can define what is called a unit ball in X. So a unit ball in X consists of every x in X such that norm of X is less than or equal to 1. So a unit ball is actually a convex set. It's very easy to see, and while doing so, you can actually prove that the norm is a convex function, because if you take any lambda between 0 and 1, here obviously this lambda that we have taken has to be between 0 and 1. So this lambda that you have has to be between 0 and 1. So apply the triangle inequality and apply the third rule, and because here lambda is non-negative, so I'm not putting the modulus because they are non-negative numbers. So this immediately shows you that norm is a convex function. And if y and x are also elements of the unit ball, then immediately it will be shown that norm of lambda y plus 1 minus norm of x is less than equal to 1 from this above thing. And then immediately you know that this ball is a convex set. So this is important, that this ball is a convex set. There is another class of important sets called polyhedral sets, which we do not discuss in detail here because we will do a very detailed discussion on them. It's very important for students to understand polyhedral sets because they appear as feasible sets in many optimization problems, specifically in linear programming. And so understanding their geometry very well is of extreme importance. So we'll do a lot of discussion on polyhedrality. So in detail. So this will not be a conventional course in convex optimal convexity where just do certain few things and get going with other things. It will be quite a detailed course. So people from mathematics, people from many other fields can actually learn in more detail about convexity. So polyhedral sets are intersections of half spaces. Now if I look at the set, so it consists of all x such that aix is less than equal to bi. Now you can ask me only it is in this form. Well, what about greater than equal to bi? What about equal to bi? Yes, you can have it in that form. We will show it in our next lecture. But they can be all brought back into this form. So just for simplicity, I am writing this form. So a polyhedron is a set of all x which satisfies a system of linear or affine inequalities, if you want to say. I'll just call it linear inequalities. And these inequalities basically this is written as aix minus bi is less than equal to 0. So basically a system of affine inequalities. So I want to say that then because each affine function is a convex function, and I already know what we have discussed before. If I have it in the form gix less than equal to 0, the set is a convex set. Then so P is a convex set. But P can be expressed as the intersection of half spaces where each of the half spaces are actually generated by AI and BI, lower half spaces. Now, so intersection of half spaces is actually a convex set. So then we get the feeling that is the intersection of a finite number of convex sets or a family of convex sets is a convex set, and the answer is yes. While the union is not. Just take two circular disks and take their union, right? So just draw two circles, one cutting each other at exactly 2 points, and then just shade them up. So the union obviously is not convex set, for example, like this. So this is a convex, so this is a convex set. Now I put another convex set here. The union you can immediately see is non-convex. So, and this whole thing is A union B. So we from just starting with polyhedrality, we'll immediately got to important results about convex functions. Another simple case where you want to check whether union of two convex sets is not convex. Take the y-axis, take the x-axis in the plane R2. So these two are convex sets, but their obviously union is not, because if you take 2 points in the union, you will immediately say that it is not convex. Now, epigraph of a function. This is the important thing. This is where we have a complete characterization of a convex function with a convex set. And that is why it is important to discuss it. So you see how convex functions can generate convex sets. So epigraph means everything that lies above the graph. It is the graph and everything above it. So then the interesting fact is that if the epigraph is a convex set, then the function must be a convex function. So how I define the epigraph? So it collects all elements x, v, which x and v, they are not elements of C cross R, right? Where x is in C and V is in R, such that fx is less than equal to V. Now suppose this epigraph is a convex set, then the function f is a convex function. Why? Because the graph is a part of the epigraph, you take 2 points from the graph, xfx and yfy. And because APF is a convex set, the convex combination must also lie in the set. So 1 minus lambda xfx plus lambda yfy is in the APF. Which means once I do the manipulation, you can just think in finite dimensions in this case. Obviously, I have slipped telling you a lot of things that how do I do vectorial operations. But think I am in Rn and just I am doing it. I'm just doing it in, say, even in R2 you can think about. But we can do the combinations of vector addition and scalar multiplication in the following way. Just multiply the scalar with the components of this vector here and this here, and then addition vector addition means just add the corresponding component. So we get lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x is lambda fy plus 1 minus lambda fx, and that is in the APF. So by definition, f of lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x must be less than, this is the V here, lambda y phi plus 1 minus lambda x. So voila, as the French would say, f is convex. Now suppose f is a convex function, and the epigraph must be a convex set. So it's a complete characterization that a function f from C to R is convex if and only if f is a convex set. So how do I see that when f is convex? The epigraph that I've got is a convex set. Take 2 points in the epigraph, x v1 and y v2. Then fx is less than v1 and fy is less than v2. Then you again take their convex combination, lambda y v2 plus 1 minus lambda x v1. So which can be rewritten as in this form, in the vectorial form, by doing the operations here of scalar and vector multiplication, scalar multiplication and vector addition. So now by convexity of f, I have f of lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x is less than equal to lambda fy plus 1 minus lambda x. But fy is less than v2, v1, and fy is less than v2 and fx is less than v1. So lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x1 and lambda v2 plus 1 minus lambda v1 is in the epigraph, because f of lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x is less than equal to lambda v2 plus 1 minus lambda v1. Here fy is less than equal to v2, but when you multiply by lambda, which is a non-negative number, so lambda fy is less than equal to lambda v2. So that is how I have done it. So now what does this say from the definition of epigraph? That lambda y plus 1 minus lambda x plus lambda v2 plus 1 minus lambda v1 is in the epigraph, which this actually means nothing. This actually means lambda y v2 plus 1 minus lambda x v1. So this whole thing, this thing is actually equal to this. This thing is equal to this. So y the convex combination of y v1 with x v2 is in the epigraph. So the epigraph is a convex set. So with this we will stop here, and tomorrow we will start discussing more about polyhedral sets, talk a bit about examples of convex functions. We will throw in certain more interesting facts about polyhedrality, more interesting facts about convex sets, some interesting results, and those will come up as we gradually go. So just have a careful look at what we have done. We are speaking from a very general point of view. We are not, because in this discussion, I will not restrict myself only to Rn, but we will go to sometimes to higher dimensional spaces. And wherever the required analytic results are needed for higher dimensions, I will give you those results. So, but in general, you will see that this convexity, these ideas are so vast and that so strong and beautiful, many results from finite dimension can easily be brought into infinite dimensions. Thank you and have a good weekend.